This cat is more than just a pet. He's a fearless adventurer who isn't afraid to take risks. One day, the cat felt an irresistible urge to explore the ocean depths. He jumped into the water and began swimming down. The deeper he went, the darker it got, but the cat was determined to continue his adventure. Suddenly, he saw a faint light in the distance and started swimming towards it. As he got closer, he realized that it was coming from an ancient, distinctive city hidden at the bottom of the ocean. The city was unlike anything he'd seen before, with its tall coral walls and strange plant life. But the cat was too curious to be scared and continued exploring. He swam through the coral archway and found himself in a whole new world. The city was filled with all kinds of sea creatures, including colorful fish, playful dolphins, and even a friendly octopus. The cat was amazed by the beauty and diversity of the underwater world. But he knew that there was more to this place than met the eye. So he continued exploring. As he ventured further into the city, he came across a mysterious cave. Something about it seemed different from the rest of the caves he'd seen. So he cautiously entered. Inside, the cat was greeted by a sight that made him gasp. There in front of him was a huge pearl that emitted a soft, inviting glow. It looked like something out of a fairy tale, and the cat couldn't help but feel drawn to it. As he approached the pearl, he noticed a small opening behind it. He pushed his way through and found himself in a secret passageway. The passage was narrow and dark, but the cat was too curious to turn back. He wriggled his body through the tight space until he finally reached the end. And what he saw next left him in awe. The cat had stumbled upon a secret entrance to an upside-down underwater civilization. This place was unlike anything he'd ever seen before. Tall coral buildings stretched up towards the surface, connected by winding bridges and bustling with activity. Strange plant life swayed in the current, and colorful fish darted between the buildings. It was a bustling metropolis hidden beneath the waves. And the cat couldn't believe he'd stumbled upon it by accident. As he explored further, he saw all kinds of amazing things. There were jellyfish farms, schools of silver fish being herded along coral paths, and even a giant squid riding a seahorse. It was a world turned upside down where everything he knew about marine life was challenged. And the cat loved every minute of it. He continued his exploration until he finally came across a group of friendly-looking fish. They were unlike any fish he'd seen before, with their bright, inquisitive eyes and sleek, silvery bodies, and as they swam closer, the cat realized they were unlike any sea creatures he'd encountered before. They were intelligent, curious, and friendly. They welcomed the cat into their community and explained that they were the guardians of the deep, an ancient race of underwater beings who had lived in this ocean for centuries. They told the cat that their world was in danger. A terrible evil was stirring in the darkest depths of the ocean, and only the purest of hearts could stop it. The cat was surprised to learn that such darkness existed in this beautiful place, but he wasn't about to back down. He knew he had to do something to help. The guardians of the deep explained that the source of the evil was a giant sea monster that had awakened in the deepest, darkest part of the ocean. The monster was called the Gloom Bringer, and it was so powerful that no one had ever been able to defeat it. But the guardians believed that the cat, with his courage and determination, might be able to stop it. They warned him that the journey would be dangerous and many obstacles stood in his way, but the cat was undeterred. He knew he had to try, and so the guardians of the deep led the cat to the edge of their underwater city. It was time for him to begin his quest. The cat took a deep breath and plunged into the water. He knew that the path ahead of him was uncertain, but he was determined to succeed. The cat swam deeper and deeper into the ocean. The water grew colder and darker, and he could feel the pressure of the deep sea pressing down on him. But he kept going, driven by his sense of purpose. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his side and looked down to see a giant tentacle wrapped around him. He struggled to free himself, but it was no use. He had been caught by one of the Gloombringer's minions. The cat closed his eyes, bracing for the end, but it never came. He opened his eyes to see a beautiful mermaid with flowing red hair swimming towards him. She quickly cut the tentacles holding him with a magical trident and explained that she and her people had been enslaved by the Gloombringer. The cat was grateful for her help, and together they freed her people from the monster's control. But the mermaids warned him that the Gloombringer's power was growing and he had to hurry if he wanted to stop it. The cat thanked them for their help and continued on his journey. He swam past giant squid, schools of bioluminescent fish, and even a giant whale shark. The deeper he went, the more desperate he became. He knew that the fate of the entire ocean rested on his shoulders. Finally, he saw a faint light in the distance and swam towards it. And what he saw next took his breath away. In front of him was a massive underwater cavern. In the center was a huge glowing pearl that emitted a soft, inviting glow. The cat knew that this was the source of the Gloombringer's power, and he had to destroy it. But as he approached the pearl, he could feel the monster's presence growing stronger. Giant tentacles lashed out at him, trying to stop him from reaching his goal. The cat dodged and weaved, trying to stay one step ahead of the beast. Finally, he reached the pearl and with a mighty swipe of his paw, shattered it. The cavern shook and the Gloombringer let out a deafening roar. But the cat didn't care. He had done it. With the pearl destroyed, the Gloombringer's power began to fade. The tentacles that had been holding the guardians of the Deepest City released their grip, and the monster itself retreated into the darkness. The cat had saved the ocean. The guardians of the deep were overjoyed and celebrated with a great feast. They honored the cat for his bravery and determination and gave him a special gift, a pearl that glowed with all the colors of the ocean. The cat was touched by their generosity and knew that he would never forget his adventure in the upside-down underwater civilization. With his quest complete, the cat knew it was time to return home. He said goodbye to the guardians of the deep and the other sea creatures he befriended and began his journey back to the surface. As he swam upwards, he could feel the warmth of the sun on his fur and the salt of the ocean spray on his face. He had faced many dangers on his quest, but none of it had been worth it more than this moment. When he finally emerged from the water, he shook himself off and looked back at the ocean. He knew that he would never forget his adventures in the depths, the amazing sea creatures he'd met, or the brave guardians of the deep who had shown him the true meaning of courage. As he padded away from the shore, the pearl around his neck glowed softly, a reminder of his amazing underwater adventure. He had discovered a secret underwater world unlike anything he could have imagined, full of wonders, beauty, and danger. He had faced giant squid, schools of bioluminescent fish, and even a monstrous Gloombringer. But through it all, he had remained fearless and true to himself, and in the end, he had not only saved the ocean, but also discovered a strength within himself that he never knew he had.